Well, good morning and welcome to Indiana Health, Integrated Health of Indiana's Talk at 10. And today we're going to talk about stress and ways to monitor stress, then some stress mitigation. And then if all of your stress mitigation techniques don't work, then we can start to give the body some support with both food and adaptogens because stress is very important to take care of. If you don't take care of stress, then what happens to you is it's just a downward spiral. Hi, Kathy. We are waiting for Jessica to hop on here. And so today we're going, as I was just in the opening talking about stress and how does stress affect the body. And so if you think about stress and what stress does, stress it keeps us alive. And ages ago, when we didn't have all the modern conveniences and all this stuff, and you were afraid to go into a dark corner, that was the thing that kept you from basically doing stupid stuff, and it made you scared and brought up all kinds of things. Now we're our own stressor and we stay in our own head and the negative talk, and you can go out there and just go on Facebook and look at people who are always stressed and always going on and on about stuff. It's I'm gonna brighten those up and get the shadows off of me. It's always going to cause problems. And so I've talked about it before that in the HPA axis, that's the hypothalamic, the pituitary, adrenal axis, the increase in anxiety or the being in your own head, what that does is that raises a hormone in us called cortisol. And cortisol is pretty good at what it does, and that is it gets us ready to fight or flee. And when we stay in that state, your gut becomes leaky. And as your gut becomes leaky, then you don't absorb nutrients. You become what they call skinny fat. Your body is always anxious. You crave simple carbohydrates and simple fuels. And it's just a bad positive feedback loop. And so we have to get to the point that we can calm ourselves down, because negative talk, being in a stressful situation, always in our heads, having the inability to calm ourselves down, especially when there's no imminent threat of death. These things are the things that we have to be able to control, because the cascade of things that happen, I mean, think about that. Cortisol goes up, blood sugar goes up, the gut becomes a little leaky, the blood shunts from the center of the body out to the periphery to get you ready to run. You may evacuate because you don't want to, in a stressful situation, have to go to the bathroom in the middle of running from the saber-toothed tiger or the boogeyman or whatever it is. And so these things keep us in a state of high alert, high anxiety, all of this. And it's not good. It screws up your digestion. It screws up your sleep. Typically, when I start to hear about people waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning all the time, we then have to start to think about what are stress mitigation techniques. And what are stress mitigation techniques? that give you more bang for the buck. A lot of stress mitigation techniques also help improve what is called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic hormone. And so it's good. Now, a little stress, a hormetic stress, is okay. So when you go to the gym, that's what is called a hormetic stressor. You're going to go in, you're going to work out, you're going to break down some muscle tissue, you're going to cause some fine tears. And then as you do these fine tears, then the muscles come back. But think about this. What are the things in your life? Because we all have stress. Everybody has stress. Everybody is going to be stressed. Everybody is going to have stress today, tomorrow, and whatever else. It is all in here in how you think of it. If you have somebody that is, being a bully and this, that, and the other, what's the number one thing to mitigating stress? Especially if you have financial stress, if you have marital stress, whatever the stress may be, what is one thing that you can do that will absolutely release endorphins, will absolutely release all kinds of good chemicals? Kathy, I'm going to pick on you. Do you know what that is? Type it in if you're able to, if you're by a keyboard. I know you watch this on your television. The number one thing that people can do to mitigate stress is exercise. And so get out and go for a walk for 20 minutes. Go lift weights for 20 minutes. Go break a sweat. And that process of exercising, breaking a sweat, getting into the exercise and doing that really starts to kick off the whole healthy cascade. And those are things that you'll want to do. Another stress mitigation technique is a breathing technique. And this breathing technique is super simple. For those of you that have an iPhone, I'm going to pimp right there. Do you see this one over here called Oak? Oop, everything's reversed. Oak is an app on the iPhone that gives you the ability to do a meditation. These are the meditations up here, and these are the breathing techniques down here. But 4-7-8 breathing is a really relaxing breath. And this is one of those things that takes you from that sympathetic fight or flight down to a parasympathetic mode. And this is something that I do before I go to eat. Because if you think about this, the Orientals say it's better to eat a bad meal in good humor than to eat a good meal in an anxious, bad state. And so we'll just take a second. This is the Oak app. It is free. It's on the iTunes. I don't think that they have one for Android. If you're not an iPhone user, I really hate to be the one that says, I'm sorry, but change, or don't. It's 4-7-8 breathing. This just has a lady that talks to you that says, breathe this way, and you don't have to count. So we're actually going to take just a second, and we're going to do this. And just pay attention to how your body feels, especially after about the third or the fourth breath. So everybody get comfortable for a second. Once you get into your seat, here we go. I'll put this up here by the speaker so you can hear it.
Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale.
In through the nose.
Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale.
And so something to think about there is if you can't actually hold your breath for 7 seconds, then you have a problem and you probably need to do that again. So you go through that process of doing those breaths, and that brings you down into a parasympathetic mode, and and it lets you relax. And so exercise, the 4-7-8 breath, these are two things that you can do that help calm the body immediately. What's something that you do to de-stress and to relax and to take yourself out of that fight or flight mode?
Walk.
So that goes back to the exercise, the walking, and that just helps bring everything down, getting to a quiet place. And so what are some symptoms that you have stress and that you're having a problem that you probably need to address? I'll put this on the screen. That waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, in that panic, in that anxiety. So you're having some stress. And what happens is at that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in Oriental medicine, this is the liver meridian, and this is when the body is kicking out all of its stuff and it's trying to heal. And you get anxious at 2 or 3 in the morning. We know that you're having some liver issues because your body's wanting energy, and you wake up and you're ready to go. And you wake up and you're ready to go, and then you're doing things for a little while, and then you go back to sleep. And when you wake up at 8 in the morning, then you're dragging. And these are problems with having stress and having anxiety, and you need to start to address that. You need to address whatever the stressor is. For me, it used to be finances, and it used to be cash flow, and it used to be those things. And you got to address that. So another thing to actually get a hold of these things is you have to look at what's going on, and you have to make a plan to address what's going wrong. Because you're not the first person to go through whatever you're going through. Somebody in history has gone through this. Somebody has written a book, an article, or whatever else. You can find what somebody else has done to get out of this. In all of my readings, Basically, it boils down to getting yourself to settle down so you can actually think, getting out of that sympathetic system so you can think. And then after you get out of that, then you start to make a plan. And as you make that plan, then things get a little better. What's something else you do for stress?
I don't know. Go to sleep.
Journal. She reads. You do your little devotional thing. Those are all things that you do. And so those are ways to, once again, help mitigate that stress. So after you start to do those things and you still notice that you may be you need help essentially at that time, then we turn to adaptogens. And we look at things that you can take that help bring the body down. Or adaptogens, actually, that means that it's an herbal that, depending on what you need, if you need to come down, it helps bring you down. If you need to go up, it helps take you up. We use things like ashwagandha. We prescribe different herbal remedies, some stuff from Metagenics. There are things from Standard Process that use these herbs in them to help do these effects for the body. And that's where we really, we want to give this to you short course, allow your body to heal, and then it starts to come back. So you can do exercise. If you're not an introvert, I'm kind of an introvert. I've done all my tests and checked out what my personality is, and my personality says I am an introvert. And you can ask her, I like to sit down. I'll sit down with the guitar and I'll noodle around on it. I'll do a little lesson there. I like to meditate. Meditation is another great way to start to let your mind actually work and figure out things. Because if you can sit down, you can breathe, you can get into that meditative mode, ideas will come to you, or at least they do me. And I typically will have a pad of paper next to me so I can write down my ideas on what needs to happen, what needs to be done. And then you've got to stay away. One of the things about being stressed is people, because we're animals, we will crave. Hi, Gracie.
Hey, Trevor. I wanted to ask if you had the iPad in the car or not.
In the front seat.
We're having iPad issues. So, morning. So, we will look at the body, just because you've got leaky gut and the body wants some instant energy. We crave those simple carbs and we want to eat junk food. And that in the long run will start to bring us down. So if you can have snacky things that you like, that are healthy for you, that's often better, because it's better than eating the enriched white flour, cracker, whatever. I like Taco Bell, and that's my go-to stress food. But you don't want to allow the stress to dictate how you act. You may want to mitigate it for a second, and then I'll go eat a burrito. And then it's like, okay, I've done my damage. What needs to happen? And figuring out that. If you have a stressor that is an outside person causing problems on the inside, figure out how to get away from that person. Figure out how to make it safer for yourself, because in the long run, you're the only person that's going to help you. Like I said, noodle around on a guitar, pick up something, pick up a new hobby, a new habit, a new whatever, because like working on the guitar or exercise, actually high intensity exercise training, like a CrossFit session or something of that nature, actually releases BDNF, decreases stress, helps the body, will help you sleep. That's a multimodal thing. And those are the great things about being in the health field and thinking about how to do things in a healthy way, because that allows you to, if you're doing exercise, you're getting tons of benefit. You're increasing blood flow. You're going to increase muscle mass, which increases immunity, which all the rage right now is immunoresilience because of COVID. It helps you do that. You will, you're working on your physique at the same time. There's all kinds of benefit from that. And those are the things that we want to do. Because what happens if and there are times for this, but just sitting in front of the television, if you're depressed and eating a bag of Cheetos or whatever else, that's just going to make you feel worse in the long run. And you may have that moment of childhood memories of eating Cheetos and the orange fingers and stuff like that. But in the long run, you're still just going to, at the end of the bag, it's gone. And that little hit of whatever is gone. But you have to be proactive about it. Make the plan. Breathe, get yourself settled down, do a meditation, make the plan, go exercise. And then you will start to see stress melt away. And that's the number one thing, is to act on whatever the stressor is. I think that about covers it. Can you think of anything? Yoga, exercise, meditation, 4-7-8 breathing, getting outside. Absolutely, get outside, get into nature, get into the trees, go walk in the woods, whatever the case may be. Well, I think that about handles stress. Have a great day.